Last year, we brought you the story of 4 families whose future was uncertain as they claimed this land, which belongs to the Hilton Estate, the residential section attached to Hilton College. Hilton College is the prestigious private boys' school.
Ngeke ukuthi nina isikole semqale ngo-1872 nini ukuthi ngathi umhlaba owenu.
Under the Labour Tenants Act, they believe they have a valid claim, but the school is having none of it. The families are part of thousands of Labour tenant applicants relying on the state to process their claims, but almost 2 decades later, the state is dragging its feet.
It shows that they don't have a plan of processing these applications.
Their case is a class action. However, the wait has left many applicants in limbo on the land which their families have lived on for generations. This week's special assignment revisits these families and finds that some of the claimants have passed on while waiting for the promised land. This is Hilton, a town in the Natal Midlands, about 100 kilometers outside of Durban. It's home to Hilton College, a prestigious private boys' school. At 300,000 rand per student per annum, the school with its sprawling lawns and majestic colonial buildings is one of the most expensive in the country. It's said to provide the best education money can buy. The school says that the Hilton Estate on which it's situated was acquired through a series of historic acquisitions. Its 146-year history began when it was established within the Hilton farm.
The farm had been a voortrekker farm and called Ongegund. And this man, his name was Lucas, who had come out from England as a military man, had survived the wreck of the Birkenhead. He was one of the guys who managed to swim to the shore. And subsequently, when his military career came to an end, he joined the civil service and was a magistrate. And he happened to own this piece of ground, or he bought it. And when he and his friend bought it, they named it after a place that they had known in England called Hilton.
But alongside this opulence, hidden behind the school, lives a poverty-stricken community. In 2017, I traveled to Hilton College to meet 4 families embroiled in a David and Goliath battle with the school for the land. This is Thanda Mwelase. His sickly elderly brother was one of the 4 applicants. Mwelase took us to visit the graves of their loved ones on land that's been a long-standing bone of contention. To get access to visit this sacred site, he had to get written permission first from Hilton College. This because the entire area is owned by the Hiltonian Society. Without it, he wouldn't be allowed in. In fact, on the very place where Mwelase stands is the Hilton College Game Reserve, with wildlife spread over hectares of land. According to him, more than 100 graves of families, including his, lie here. But with animals roaming freely in the dense bushes, the graves have become almost impossible to identify. These families once owned land here.
Kwakukhona oMwelase, oMbanjwa, oNgcobo, oSikhakhane, oButhelezi lapha phesheya. Bonke belana lezi ibongo nje esinazo zonke nabakodlamini abanye ngenhla ngala sasisonke nabo lana. Yamanje silwa nje sithi sifunda lo mhlaba ubuyiswe kuthina. Ngoba adusisiza silima, sitshala, ayikho into ade siyiswele.
For residents like Thanda Mwelase, the history of Hilton College is a sore point. It's a reminder of the land on which they have lived since the 1800s, but have now lost.
Lana kade kungakhona Hilton College ekanozekela. Umlungu wafica ukhokho wethu lana. Mafica ukhokho wethu, wathi ukhokho wethu, etshela ukhokho wethu wathi ngifunela abantu bazosebenza la ngaphakathi.
According to him, when Hilton College was established on the Hilton farm in 1872, his parents and grandparents formed part of the workforce on the farm. Some of the workers then ended up working at the college. The understanding was that the black workers who had lived on the farm before it was acquired by those who established Hilton College would work for free in exchange for living space, the right to graze and have cattle. Both parties, the college and the families, operated under this arrangement. These families remained on the land for many generations. When the 1913 Native Land Act was introduced, it prohibited the ownership of land by blacks. As a result, black South Africans on farms were faced with two options: absolute dispossession or labor tenancy. This legislation played a pivotal role in stripping black people of their land as their cattle, their homes, their crops, and their possessions were taken away from them.
Ngeke ukuthi nina isikole semsiqale ngo-1872 nini ukuthi ningathi umhlaba owenu nibe umlungu efica ukhokho wethu lapho ungekho zindlu eziningi la.
Under the Labour Tenants Act, 4 applicants, Thanda Mwelase, Mndeni Sikhakhane, Xhegwana Mwelase, and Ndoda Mngoma, were certain they could successfully claim ownership of the land. The act was signed by the late former President Nelson Mandela in 1996 and is supposed to address the injustices of the past by acknowledging farm workers and labor tenants uprooted from their land and giving them ownership of the small portion of land that they live on. When I first met Ubaba Mndeni Sikhakhane, one of the 4 applicants, he had gone blind and could barely get around. He told me for decades he worked at the school.
Yabona nje ngikukhele khona. Wenzani khona? Asebenza emaphitrom, kasebenza emahhovisi. Kwayimina ngicleana onke amahhovisi lawo ala ekhaya. Kize ngikukhele kuona amahhovisi. Ngithatha iposi, ngifakele iposi yonke indawo laphezulu.
The deadline for the lodging of labor tenant claims was March 2001, and about 19,000 labor tenants had applied for land ownership. But the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform lost most of the claims that were submitted on time. The 4 applicants eventually approached the Association for Rural Advancement, known as AFRA, a KwaZulu-Natal land NGO, for help. AFRA then wrote to the department to ask it to send the claims to the Land Claims Court. The department failed. That's when AFRA approached the Legal Resources Centre to assist the claimants.
We decided to use this case in order to benefit other labor tenants, because in South Africa we know very well that there are about 19,000 labor tenants who made similar applications, and their applications were not processed by the Director General, and some of them were lost by the department. They are nowhere to be found. So we decided to use this case to bring this case as class action in order to benefit other labor tenants who made applications.
The Legal Resources Centre approached the Land Claims Court to compel the department to explain how it intended to process the claims.
They failed to provide us with the records. As a result of that, we took a decision saying that we need someone to be appointed, someone who's going to be reporting to court and who's going to work with the department. So we call that person a special master.
In a landmark ruling in December 2016, the Land Claims Court instructed the Rural Development and Land Reform Minister to appoint a special master to oversee the claims process. The court set a deadline of 31 March 2017 for the appointment of the master. Surprisingly, the minister challenged this, and the matter went to the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. This court changed the initial order of the Land Claims Court and ruled that the role of the special master must be someone employed by the department. When I visit Mbenza again, he tells me the matter is now headed to the Concords and the department continues to push judicial parameters to the extreme in order to avoid implementing the law.
I think initially they said that even if we are successful at the Supreme Court of Appeal, they're not going to appeal against that judgment of the Supreme Court of Appeal. But surprisingly, we were not successful at the Supreme Court of Appeal. Then we took that matter to the Constitutional Court. So, but they are opposing our application at the Constitutional Court.
Four families are currently laying claim to this land, which belongs to the Hilton Estate, the residential section attached to the exclusive Hilton College. But what has made the matter distressing is that the applicants are very old. In 2017, when I visited the estate, 2 of the 4 applicants had already died. At the time, I interviewed Thanda Mwelase, one of the 4 applicants.
Into esilo nabo neyitho ngesithi asindawo sihleli la asebenza la saqeda iminyaka sesithola impesheni nje ingekho nje isihluphayo manje hayi banathi shaka.
When I visit the family the second time, I'm told that he has passed on.
Kubhlungu impela ngokuthi wayemisele nawo mhlawumbe ukuthi uzothi kusale zekhaya mhlawumbe ushona kwakhe wezazi azi ukuthi mhlawumbe ubusuwiniwe. Ngoba namanje yena wayekhala ukuthi angifuni kandawo mina ngila ngifuna nongcwatshwa lana ya kwaba kwasiphatha kabuhlungu lokuthi ukuthi ke azashone ingacaca indaba yomhlaba ukuthi icace kanjani.
In his house now live his children and grandchildren. They are constantly reminded of him. During my first visit, I learned that the Hiltonian Society believes the applicants don't have a valid claim. They argue that the men were paid, thus making them farm workers and not labor tenants. Ubabuskakana didn't dispute that he was paid, but it was a minuscule amount.
Oh, sasihola leyo madlala phoze leshumbu wesisikhathi. Yeah. Kwaze kwaya phoze leshumbu kwaze kwaya phoze lofakolweli kwaye phoze lesihlalo. Nehlalo hayo kuya kancane. Ayeke imali sasiyihola phela. Sasingaholi lutho.
Ubabuskakana is now the last of the 4 claimants. As I catch up with him on my second visit, I see the effect that this protracted legal process has had on him.
Angisaphilile manje kodwa inhliziyo yami ihleli ilapho kule ndawo kulento esikuyona esikhulumayo sasingakabi nje lasikhuluma lento. Sesaguga. Lekuthiwa hayi. Impilo yami sisengcupheni phela nami manje. Abaningi sebengishiyebonke sengisele ngedwa.
He admits he no longer has the physical strength to mount an opposition against the powerful school that houses the children of the elite. But what concerns him the most is that the oral histories of how they were dispossessed of their land may be forgotten by generations to come.
Abafana bona ke yebo bawuqhamuka kodwa ke abaningi abayinakile lento banakutshwala kuphela abaningi. Yabona? Into mawuyikhuluma umuntu hawu amunye athi hayi asindawo tethi indawo yethu le kodwa mawuthi akakhuluma umuntu aphetha.
In our previous broadcast, what troubled the residents was that in a democratic country, they were barred from owning too much livestock. They were not allowed to farm the land and their movements were restricted. Before they were moved onto these premises, this was never the case. As a result, they had to abide by the rules of the estate, making life difficult for them. I'm told this hasn't changed.
Sifuna ukufuya njengasasifuyile oqaleni ngoba inkomo zazingabalwa kuqala. Wawazi kahle nje 100 wenkomo umuntu onenkomo ofuyile ezilimela umuntu enzansi emngeni akha amasimu makulokhu uzokuvuna umbila nje ekhaya kwakuvunwa amasaka nje abo 20 amabele sitshala nobhatata namadumbe.
In our first broadcast, the school refused an interview, insisted that none of the residents qualified to be called Labour tenants in terms of the Labour Tenants Act. This time around, they also didn't respond to our request for an interview. Labour tenancy applications are an important aspect of land reform in South Africa. Social and political commentator Kaya Sithole penned a column about the 4 Hilton applicants and exposed what very few knew about their drawn-out battle against the school. He says they applied to put a face to the painful story of land dispossession in South Africa.
It was a very traumatic experience because it really forced me to revisit a lot of the conceptions I'd had about what land means to human beings. And also what I was able to do is to then say, well, perhaps one of the key issues we have as a massive problem in South Africa is that people like perhaps you and I have got the ability to leverage our social capital and our social currency to tell stories that have a meaning for some people. We've never used that. And I looked at the fact that I've got access to particular platforms, and then I said, well, perhaps if someone different, someone detached from the story can tell it and make other people understand what it means to actually have been dispossessed, it might sort of change the way the narrative works. So when I wrote the story, it was simply a matter of putting the pieces together and saying to people, but perhaps we need to be able to understand the society, what the land question is all about, and then make informed decisions.
The actions of the department have affected everyone, says KZN Land NGO AFRA.
The failure on the side of the department to process the Labour Tenants Act by processing Labour tenant claims has impacted negatively on people's lives. The uncertainty that has created on farms has created further problems, not only for Labour tenants and farm dwellers on farms, but even for landowners. That uncertainty of not knowing how should you invest on your land, should you sell, should you wait, that uncertainty has created many problems, and that has impacted on our economy.
Some, however, like Ubabu Zabalaza Mshengu, were declared rightful Labour tenants, but the delay in officiating his claim took its toll on his health. I met him in 2017, where he lived on a farm in Ashburton, Pietermaritzburg, not far from the Hilton families. It was a stressful day. The hut he had been using as his kitchen and eating area had collapsed, and he took me around to show me the damage.
Kungiphethe kabi ngoba indawo yokuhlala na ngoba uyabona bangangisusa la ayikho into engayenza ngifuna indawo yami engizohlalela khona engathi uhlutshwe umuntu.
Mshengu's father provided labor to the previous white farm owner many years ago in return for the right to live on the farm, as well as to grow some of his own crops and graze his livestock there. He took over from his father as a laborer. The farm was eventually sold to new landowners. In 2007, he was declared a Labour tenant, but 4 years later his case went back to court because the land had still not been transferred. When I interviewed him then, Mshengu still didn't have the title deed for the 5 hectares he's entitled to. The delay was with the department because no agreement had been reached over a fair price for the department to purchase the land, and so Mshengu waited. But while these legal processes moved into their 10th year, he grew older and weaker.
Hayi phela mina ngibheka abameli bami ngomngakunika sabona. Ibona sebefanele ukuthi bakubheka ngoba kade ngiya kubo.
104-year-old Mshengu passed away in August 2018. He's buried here on the farm.
Asiphathekile kuthina kahle ngoba uzwashona umkhulu. Indawo bengakamniki ngokusemthethweni. Kwathina sizazi njengoba sihleli nje ukuthi umhlaba uyawuwina noma akawuwini. Njengoba sihleli nje mhlawumbe ngathuka kufika umlungu la kusasa ethi asiphume.
Mshengu's portion was never transferred to him, so he never had ownership of the land. Therefore, he had no right to build a permanent structure on the property. This meant there were legal processes that needed to be followed when AFRA had raised funds to lay the foundations and build a new structure for him. They even ended up in conflict with one of the shareholders of the company which owns the farm. Challenges like this concern his children.
Okuphathekayo nje ogcwele ngale kwetayitela thina sobona ngalo ukuthi indawo yethu sifuna itayitela nje.
Mshengu's attorney Muzi Mzila was appointed by the department's land rights management facility to assist Mshengu with his claim. He was able to draw up a will for him, and his family members are now the beneficiaries. However, when they were forced to compel the department to follow a previous court order, the department suspended his mandate to represent Mshengu.
We wrote another letter in Feb to the management company and the department, explaining to them, that, I mean, they may have had in their conclusion that, I mean, our application to compel them was premature. Because, I mean, in terms of the rules of the Land Claims Court, that application to compel them flowed from the very same court order that was granted on the 31st of July, 2017, directing them to file their report within 30 days. So it was obvious that they were in contempt of the court order, and they did not file any explanatory affidavit, I mean, to put the courts in confidence as to what was holding them to comply with that court order. And then we read that letter to the department and the management company. Their response was that they stand by the decision that they made in December 2017, and that our mandate, I mean, was suspended. And then at that stage, our hands were tied.
The department didn't respond to repeated requests for an interview about where Mshengu's claim currently stands. The reality is that a lot of Labour tenant claimants won't live to see the process come to fruition. And sadly, some have had to make peace with the fact that this might not be settled in their lifetime. However, their struggle will always be remembered.
Baba Mshengu, Baba Mwelase, these are struggle icons. Their names will be remembered and will be taken forward, but their families spoke very eloquently and very powerfully, even in their grieving, of the importance of taking these struggles forward, and that they are determined to continue to fight for their land rights, not just for themselves, but for all citizens in this country, because they realize the importance of what their claims represent more broadly.